Have you ever watched someone do something, anything really, post something, say something, build something, and thought, I could never get away with that? Like the version of running a creative business where you just say exactly what you think, make exactly what you want, and trust that the right people will simply find you for it? Most of us, myself included, have spent a lot of energy trying to be palatable, trying to keep the door open for as many potential customers as possible. And I get it. When you're the one paying the bills, narrowing your audience can feel like a massive risk. But, because there's always a but what if getting specific about your values, your aesthetic, your people is in fact the way to actually create demand? Today's guest is Taylor Friese of Maker Bakery, a potter and baker from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who has built a wait list years long, not by appealing to everyone, but by being completely, unapologetically herself. Taylor makes nerdy, deeply personal work for a deeply specific audience, and her community has found her in a big way because of it, not in spite of it. We talk about what it actually means to know what you want your making life to look like, and dare I say, your actual whole life, not just your making life, but also how clarity about your why can take the pressure off of every single decision, and what happens when you stop trying to reach everyone and just start talking directly to your people. Whether you've ever thought about being more vocal about your values, or you've just been trying to figure out who you're actually making work for, Taylor's story is a really good reminder that the right people to help you grow the business of your specific dreams tend to show up when you get honest with yourself and share that honesty. So let's get into it all right after this brief word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by The Community, your creative business support system with over 100 makers from around the world, with both the practical education you need to make a living from the things you make, found in our masterclasses on topics like finances, marketing, and SEO, plus the emotional support of fellow makers who truly understand what it's like to try and make a living from the things we make. It's like having both a business school designed specifically for artists and a team of colleagues who actually get what you're going through. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hey, this is Tim Clark, side hustle owner and operator of the Half Blind Pottery Company. So I initially took Rebecca's online photography course to step up my very lacking photography skills. And just as a side note, yes, you can take beautiful high quality photos of your ceramics with just a cell phone and 10 to 15 minutes of your time. And if this knuckle dragging clay throwing Neanderthal can do it, you certainly can too. So that led to being introduced to the Maker's Playbook community, and I've been part of the Clayborhood for just over a year now. The Clayborhood has been a game changer for me. It's filled with folks that have the biggest hearts and have shown up for me big time, both in clay and life beyond clay. So I think the best way I can describe the Maker's Playbook is maybe Maker's Market for Dummies meets the Swiss Army knife. Meaning, whether it's marketing, bookkeeping, marketplace setup, workflow logistics, whatever, someone in the community has been there and done that, and they're more than willing to share their experience to save you the trouble. So no matter where you are on your journey, from newbie to seasoned potter, there is definitely a welcome place for you in the Clayborhood. I can be found on Instagram at the Half Blind Potter. Feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to share my personal experience in the Maker's Playbook community with you.
Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Maker's Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca Ikes Cara. Hey, Taylor. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for saying yes to a random DM on the internet, because
Absolutely.
it still amazes
Sounded
me that
fun.
5 years later that still works.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did go look at your page and listen to a podcast before I responded. But yeah,
As you should. That's just smart behavior. That's just like,
yeah.
a true child of technology is like, yes, this is best practice.
Yes.
Well, before I get carried away, I'm going to go ahead and have you introduce yourself so people know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, my name is Taylor Friese. I go by Maker_Bakery on most platforms. I am a potter on the internet, I guess. I use they, she pronouns, and I have a dog named Grog.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's a good name for a dog.
I know, it works for clay people, and also I named it after a character from the D&D show Critical Role. So, it's perfect, because I'm a nerdy potter, and so I've got nerd and pottery. It's perfect.
And it rhymes. I mean,
yeah.
just bare minimum. Okay, I'm going to try really hard not to make the rest of this conversation about your dog. It's going to take effort, but I think we can do it. I have a lot of questions. I know we kicked off even the idea of having this conversation around how open you've been online and very straightforward with people of like, hey, if you don't agree with my beliefs, I don't need your money and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited to talk about all that. I know that'll be a bigger conversation. So first I want to ask you about the balance between pastries and pottery and just how much you like to play with fire.
Oh my gosh, I love fire so much. It's insane. I love fire. I think the love of seeing flames has driven a lot of my career choices. When I graduated from college, I got a degree in art with an emphasis in folk art, and I was a fiber artist. But fiber arts don't pay, obviously. And I grew up in a restaurant family, so I became a baker because I couldn't stay up late, so I couldn't be a line cook anymore. So I became a baker, and I got really good at it, I think. Good enough to teach classes and to start selling my own stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and I had started to get into pottery at that point because my mom is a potter, so she taught me some things. The pandemic hit, and so I was baking a lot. Like the cottage bakery laws in Iowa are really nice, so you can just bake stuff from your house. So I was baking a lot, and then I was also doing some ceramics, and then the ceramics started selling more than the baked goods. So I still have a few bakery clients, but usually when I tell people that I'm also a baker, and that's where the bakery of Maker Bakery comes from, they are surprised to learn that.
I mean, it's pinned right at the top, and I just get hungry when I come to your Instagram.
People don't read those. People don't read those. You read those. You read those. People don't read those.
I mean, something tells me this could easily become the title of this episode. People don't read, and just
they don't read.
Wide variety of ways that has affected our lives.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it before, too. I tried to order a vase, and it had very clear directions on how to order the vase from this amazing artist. And I didn't read that. And so I sent her a DM, and I feel guilty about it to this day, especially because I get DMs every day where I'm like, people don't read. Even I don't read. Nobody reads.
Do you want to just officially state where you got the vase from, and I can clip this audio and then send it to her as a formal, apology?
Like a formal apology. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she doesn't think about it at all anymore, but I think about it all the time.
I love that. I love it. Also, I don't think I got so caught up in everything that was going on. I mean, this is the ridiculous part of the internet, right? I got so caught up on what was going on Instagram and what we're going to get to talking about and everything that I didn't realize you were in Iowa. And now I'm going to change the format of the podcast on the fly here. And instead of talking about the Midwest at the end where everybody can choose to stop listening, we're going to just go straight from the beginning.
Oh, incredible. So I have a question for you real quick then. You consider Iowa to be part of the Midwest? Because I was listening to one of your podcasts. Yeah, right. It's okay. I was listening to one of your podcasts recently, and I think you guys are talking about Missouri is not part of the Midwest. And I was like, I'm right next to Missouri. Am I in the Midwest? I got scared, but I was like, no, Iowa is very clearly we're in the Midwest, right?
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. I would firmly place it in there. Your central time zone. There's more corn than people.
More pigs than people, too.
Also probably cattle and soybeans. We could go down the whole list. But I grew up in the Quad Cities, so I was just in Iowa when I was visiting my family. We drive across the river to get gas because it's cheaper.
That's smart. That's a good move. Move. I'm in Cedar Rapids, so we can't quite make that commute. I grew up in Iowa City, so.
Yep. Okay, super cool. There's a Whitey's ice cream in Iowa City, so it's basically part of the Quad Cities. All right. We will compare notes on very regional and Iowa City specific food after the recording so that people
Okay.
actually stick around now.
Sounds like a plan.
Nobody wants to. Well, maybe people want to hear about taco pizza, but I don't know. We'll see.
Oh.
It sounds like a different podcast.
I'll talk about taco pizza. I got lots of feelings.
Wait, positive or negative?
Positive
Okay, good.
feelings.
Just checking. Then
Positive
we're fine.
feelings.
That's all
Yeah.
there is. That's all there is to know. I love it. That's amazing. Okay, so baking came first, but now clay has kind of taken over. But it totally
Yes.
makes sense that I'm assuming you said your mom's a potter, so my assumption is then that that's how you got introduced to it. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's basically how. I mean, I always had access to a ceramic studio. I'm definitely like a nepo baby when it comes to pottery. I had a couple classes in college, and my mom even came and like did like a guest spot at those classes. But I didn't really get into it until like I want to say 2016 is when I really started learning how to do it.
When this kicked off, like us talking, was you talking about like, hey, I've got enough orders coming in. If you don't agree with the way that I see the world, I don't need you to place an order. I don't need your money.
Mm-hmm.
As an outsider looking in, that makes me assume that you are full-time, but maybe I'm wrong. Like, tell me about how life actually functions.
Yeah, so I could be full-time if I wanted to. I guess I kind of am because it is the only thing that makes me directly money. But I have so many hobbies and so many things that I like doing that I cannot sit in my studio for 8 hours a day. I can't do it. So I would say I'm a part-time potter and a part-time homemaker. Yeah. I don't have
Wait,
kids. Just the house.
Just the bread and the...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say define homemaker to me because I also feel like the way I define that is at odds with the way you see the world based on Instagram.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think there's very much like trad wife things. There are hobbies that are similar that I have with trad wives, but at the same time, my spouse and I view the labor of the house to be actual labor, right? So, like, I have a very productive garden. I'm a good cook, so I cook our meals. You know, I clean and I fix things, and I could, you know, those low flow toilets. This is weird that this is one of my proudest accomplishments recently, but you know those really annoying low flow toilets? I got mine to work finally and work well. It wasn't something I could make a TikTok about or anything, but I have been telling everybody that I finally got this. It took years to get it to actually flush, and I fixed it with a darning needle. Anyway, so yeah, like I mend a lot of our clothes, and a lot of that is very trad wifey, and people see it as like, but it's labor. It's labor that needs to be done, and I like doing it, so I'm the one that does it.
Number one, I also think the amount of time it takes to do all of those little annoying things for an upkeep of a house in terms of getting a toilet to flush properly, or I'm thinking even of like the doorknobs that we have that are a little bit too tight when we replace them, and we need to just like grab a screwdriver and do a quarter of a turn so that they're not quite so sticky, or the reverse, the handle on the faucet that's too loose that you need to just like so many things like that you just don't get done when it's not someone's primary job to do it. So I think it sounds like a dream as
it's
a
wonderful.
spouse.
Yes.
I think your spouse is incredibly spoiled.
And also, like, he is, but like there are things that, like, obviously there are things he has to do every day. And we had, like, when we got married, we had a very long conversation about like, these are the things that I will be doing, but that does not mean that you are excused from housework. You are still a member of this household, right? And, you know, I think he was the one that said that about himself. I'm saying it like I, like, dictated this to him, but no, he was anyway. But then there are the things that he would much rather live in an apartment complex where he could call somebody and be like, hey, this faucet is loose or whatever. And I would much rather live in a house where I don't have to call somebody. I want to be able to fix it myself. So,
or hear the person next door or below you or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where my brain went, because I distinctly remember during COVID knowing exactly when my upstairs neighbor had someone come visit. Let's put it that way.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, oh, God, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to boarding school for high school and then I went to college, and I am done with the dormitory style living, the apartment complexes. Not everybody needs a yard. I need a garden. I need it. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. I love that we went down this rabbit hole because it's so interesting where our brains go when we say the term full time, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would completely define you as a full time potter when you're saying that's your primary and main source of income, right? For you.
Yeah.
That for me is full time in many ways, but then also with that caveat of like, well, how many hours is that? Like, do the hours make the definition? Is something I hadn't even thought about, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, when they talk about themselves, the question is, what do you do? And that means, what do you do to make yourself money? And so I think that a lot of times the work that we do like the person that we are outside of work kind of gets lost in that, because I meet a lot of engineers and I'm going to tell you that their job is usually the least interesting thing about them. Like, it's what they do after work that they really define themselves with. And the engineering is just how they make the money.
Yep.
Yeah.
This was actually something when I lived in the UK, realizing like it was the first time that I had friends that I had known for months who I had no idea what they did for a living, because it wasn't the defining thing around the culture, you know? I
Oh,
think it is a
beautiful.
very American culture thing of like, hi, my name's Rebecca. What do you do? Like within that first 30 seconds, it's just
Yeah.
it's the question that's, I don't know, in the forefront of our heads.
It's also the question that I have the hardest time answering, because,
Mm.
like, I remember when I was a full-time baker, it was the easiest question in the world. Everybody knows what a baker does. Baker makes bread. I'm a baker. But now I'm like, well, I'm kind of an artist. I guess I make pottery is what I'm known for, but I'm also a fiber artist, and but then there's the term homemaker, right? And I don't want to say that up front because I don't want people to think that I'm defining myself as a wife or,
Right.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah, that you well, yeah, I could go really heavy on that. I was like that you didn't have full say in how frequently your uterus was full.
Right. Woof. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, the funny part about this is that if I say we'll segue into talking about what kicked off this conversation in the first place, it's not really lighter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because you effectively, I think from just my like cursory looking, this seemed like your kind of maybe first big viral moment, maybe not, maybe second. I think there's some lore cups.
Yeah, it was my first big viral moment maybe not my first big viral moment on Instagram. It was definitely my first viral moment on Facebook. That was wild.
Ooh.
People over there they are not being edited in any way. It's a whole different thing over there. I've had a few viral videos that are just, my work. Before that, I went viral first on TikTok, and my Instagram was pretty empty for a long time. But yeah, it's my first point of not fun virality, if that makes sense. Like,
Ooh, yeah.
it was the first time I went viral because of the things that I was saying and not because of the things that I was making. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about, and this whole, like, for everybody listening, we're not just talking about going viral. We're talking about having a business that aligns with your moral compass, effectively,
Oh, right.
is what we're getting at here. But I do think it's interesting to consider the virality piece of it, because it's one of those things that my assumption is a lot of people when they're posting are looking for that result, right? They're hoping to get as many eyeballs, as many comments, as many likes, as many of the different words we use in replace of human interaction
Sure.
as possible. But I also don't know that the results are what people expect them to be. So before we get into the most recent post in terms of being known for what you said, not what you make, since you have had a few posts of just your making, let's go back to that at first in terms of what it was like to get that many eyeballs on something that you did make and kind of what that has done in terms of you as a potter and your business.
Sure. Terrifying. It's so scary. I think the first time I went viral, I was not at all ready to start a business. I opened my Etsy shop when I was 16, but I wasn't selling mugs. I wasn't prepared as a potter to sell mugs with my first viral video. And I think I would have done things a lot differently looking back on that moment, because the first video that went big on TikTok was I made a set of honestly really terrible mugs for my D&D party. I barely knew how to do things. I had my mom's studio and I was like, I'm going to make some mugs for my D&D party because it's the pandemic and we're all sad. So I just put very basic, like in D&D, your characters, they have a race and a class like Dragonborn Fighter, Dwarven Cleric. And I just put those things and color schemes that fit their characters and I put that on mugs. And people really liked those. And so they were like, how can I buy this? And I was like, well, I guess I do have an Etsy shop. Like I can put stuff up on, I can do it. I probably shouldn't have at that point. But that's when I started my waitlist. And I literally have yet to catch up on my waitlist since then. And that was 2020. So what was the question? What were we talking about? Oh, so the feeling of virality. It's so scary to be perceived on that level. When you really think about it, I'll make something and I'll show my spouse and I'll show my friends and they'll be like, oh, that's so cool. But when you think about the idea of 1 million people seeing something that you made, like 1 million people is so many. That's like if you go to a huge football game and the people in the crowd, that's less than 1 million people.
Yeah.
And imagine them all staring at a mug.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's so crazy.
This is why I wish there was a way that I could replace the word followers with humans.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like we have this language around, engagement on the internet, and it's completely replaces the idea that there are 58,000 humans who see your stuff, or 11,000 humans who know I exist. Now, of course, there are some people who started their accounts back in the day where maybe they're not all actually humans, but whatever,
sure.
That's a different... Let's even take half of it. Like, I'm somewhere around 11,000 right now, so let's just say 5,000 people. Like,
yeah.
I spoke at NCECA a couple years ago and didn't realize the size of the room they were putting me in. And I think there's about 6,000 people who attend NCECA. So for sure, not everybody who attended NCECA was at my talk by any stretch of the imagination. However, it was the keynote room and it was busy. So, like, that feeling I had of, like, holy crap, there are a lot of people in this room. And that was, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people? Like,
that's so many people to do a podcast in front of. It's so many people.
Like, to talk about photography in front of, to do, like, it was incredible to be like, holy cow, this many people showed up for me. And yet, if you think about 1,000 followers... for some reason, that doesn't give you the same feeling? Like, what?
Yeah. This is so online of me, but I'm going to reference, there was a sound going around on TikTok for a while that was like, why do you post when only like 33 people see it or whatever? And it's like, if 33 people were to walk into this room right now, I would freak out. That's so many people to look at a thing. I mean, even 10 views is so cool when you think about, like, it's people and they're seeing your stuff.
And for me, I always go back to, like, what's the goal? Like, this is a conversation we have in the community all of the time of, like, what is the goal? Because if your goal is to mass produce work, then I understand the need to constantly get to a bigger number because, East Fork obviously needs to hit a much higher revenue amount to maintain the livable wage that they pay people in their factory compared to, Francesco and I by ourselves in our house, right? But, like, if you have at least for my brain, if I work out the numbers that I actually need to be sustainable, then I understand, if I do need to grow, then I understand what I'm going for rather than just the ever-moving target of more, because that's exhausting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked to a few of my friends who are, like, trying to get started in social media and they're looking for all of these tips and tricks. And I was talking to one of them. She does these amazing watercolors. Her business is already so sustainable. She does markets and she teaches classes and her work is so cool. Her name is Barb Thompson, by the way. You should look at her work. She paints Iowa. It's lovely. And she was talking about wanting to grow a following on Instagram. And I was like, this makes sense. It is how artists make money right now. But also, like, why do you want to do it? because getting followers doesn't, like, the number of followers you have doesn't technically change anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like if she were to say, well, going to markets every single weekend is really draining and
Sure.
I want to diversify where I'm selling my work so that if the weather's bad and the market's bad, I'm not, financially in a tough spot, then I'd be like, okay,
Right.
cool, great. I got let's build a strategy. But just to do it because you feel like you have to do it, please
Yeah.
no. Okay, amazing. Well, so then, because I think what's also especially interesting for me is there have been plenty of artists and accounts who, have always merged their beliefs with what they do. But I don't know that that was necessarily what you were regularly doing. At least that's not what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I feel like this was kind of like okay, I'm going to pop up here and say this. I don't want to say out of nowhere because I'm sure it
Mhm.
wasn't actually out of nowhere, but that's sort of how that's how it comes across in a scroll, I guess. Is what I'm
Absolutely.
getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't out of nowhere, but it was definitely out of nowhere for the main grid, right? I have been on social media since I was a teenager, right? As classic millennial, and I have always been political in my social media. And then at some point, my social media became also like my business, right? That's how I advertise my business. And I continued being political, but mostly in the stories, because I know that when people go to my page, what they're looking for is like, what kind of mug do I want to buy, or what kind of bread do I want to buy? So I don't put a lot of that in the main grid, but I do post a lot of stories, a lot of those kinds of things. And I also think that, your art is inherently political no matter what you do, but that's a whole other conversation. But basically what happened was it was the first time I got a DM from somebody who was mad about me posting political. And I don't take that kind of criticism well, I guess. And so I had to double down because he was being a jerk. So that's why it ended up on the main grid. But
Amazing. I think a lot of people have actually reused your audio, which is why I wasn't really specific about it. But essentially, you posted a reel that was basically like, if you think that kidnapping people, I'm going to paraphrase it really terribly. I'm trying to phrase it in a way that's not just current events because people listen to podcasts years later. But
oh, yeah.
we're in February 2026 at the time of recording this interview. So you effectively were like, if you don't agree with me and the way I see the world and the fact that I think all humans are equal and, science is real and no one's illegal and et cetera, and,
Mhm.
I don't need your money.
Yeah. Correct.
Would that be a fair summary of it? Effectively?
Yeah. The weird thing is, from my perspective, was I don't think that I was being that controversial. It was not. First of all, just to look at me, you can tell where I stand politically. It's not a secret. And I really don't think, because I didn't even say, looking back on it, I didn't even say I don't want your money, which may be true as well. But I didn't say I don't want your money or I won't take your money or I think you're a terrible person. What I said was I don't need your money because I don't. And so I'm going to keep posting about the things that I believe in. It's so wild to me what a response it got just because it really didn't feel that extreme. You know what I mean?
This is taking the politics out of it. What's so funny about the internet is there's stuff that we put so much time and effort into and think this is actually really great stuff. Especially for me with education, there's some posts that I'll spend hours on to be distill down a complicated thing into 10 little baby slides and okay, this is actually incredibly helpful, this is going to be great, this is going to be huge. And then still maybe 100 people see it, and that's still a lot of people, as we were saying, but you're really, this isn't the thing. Whereas the post I made with a crappy cell phone picture after we had a massive storm the night before a show and all of our tents, our neighbor's tent was destroyed, but ours wasn't. And I posted something about how we use pool noodles to keep the roof up, and that's the only reason ours wasn't destroyed. Solely just because I don't want people to have destroyed tents, not because I wasn't trying to go viral. I wasn't trying to do anything, but that's the thing that just got them. I mean, when I said bad cell phone picture, I'm talking I zoomed in on my phone and then cropped it closer, which meant the quality, like, it is categorically a bad picture.
It's not like your photographer self saying.
Exactly. Like, from a person who teaches photography on the internet, it is a horrible, grainy, bad picture, no
Yeah.
sense of composition. It was just like, let me snap this real quick so I can show people and throw some text over it.
That most recent one that went big for me, like, I literally got the DM from that guy, put my camera down, and started talking. Like, that, it wasn't, there was no script. There was no, like, I didn't turn on my ring light or, like, try to get the best angle or anything like that. I'm standing in my studio and I'm yelling at a camera. Like, that's all it is. And you never get to choose which ones get big, which is probably one of the addictive properties of social media, but
Yeah, I'm sure there's some psychology around that addiction side of it, but it's also the infuriating part of it.
yes. Because then once you actually have something to make a difference, it never gets as big.
Precisely. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Because I do a fundraiser 10 days later and nobody sees it. You know what I mean? It's ugh.
Yes, exactly, which is infuriating, but that's a whole nother thing. So, getting myself back on track, when you said you've been online since you were a teenager and you've always been political, so that to me tells me there's this muscle that has already been trained for this to be, I don't know if the word is comfortable, because I'm sure there's still a number, like a portion of it that's uncomfortable, especially as the eyeballs increase. But there is a certain comfort, for lack of a better word, or at least you've built up the muscle, you've built up the thick skin, whatever you want to call it, to be able to do this, as opposed to, I don't know, I'm thinking about the artists who have never posted anything and they're getting to a point where they're like, I feel called to share something, but I'm really anxious about it and I'm nervous about it and I don't know how to do this or if I should do it or all of these other whatevers. That wasn't an actual question, but I hope you understand where I'm going.
I think I get it. I think I get
Great.
it. Yeah, I definitely think that's true. And I think that the fact that I've been posting politically so long makes me more confident that I know who my audience is. Because, like, I can imagine a world in which, you know, the things that I believe weren't so out there already, or, like, if I looked a bit more prim and proper or, like, those kinds of things, how much more difficult it would be, because I wouldn't necessarily know who my followers were, but I have a pretty good idea. And I also, like, it's more important for me to do it than for me to make sales. Because that's the point I'm at in my life, right? Like, not only do I have the safety net of my spouse and my family, but I also have, which is a huge privilege, but I also have this safety net of literally 1,000 people on my wait list. Like, I'm fine. So it's definitely a lot easier because I've been doing it so long. And also, like, my family has been doing it so long. My dad was a politician and an activist in Iowa City. So, like, I grew up around it, you know? It was never a conversation that was off the table. I know a lot of my friends struggle with the having conservative parents problem, which is not something I have to deal with. So, yeah, it's a lot easier for me than for a lot of other people.
Well, and the thing I always think about, I guess, is that our whole goal as business owners is to, well, there's a lot of goals, but in the context of this conversation, whenever we're putting our work out there in the world and whenever we're, going through the effort of social media or of marketing or all of this stuff, the point is to attract the type of people that you want to sell your work to, right? And that's not always people like us, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. Like, for sure, my photography clients were not in my own personal world by any means. Like, I couldn't afford myself, to be honest. I couldn't. But, like, still, as small business owners, not as conglomerates with endless resources, but as artists with limited resources, limited time to make the thing we make, the more you can focus in on, like, this is my target audience. This is the very specific description of who I make work for and how that's different from my other potter friend who also makes work but actually wants to sell it to a completely different type of person, the stronger your business ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely something to be said for niches because nerds. I market to nerds. I do stuff for nerds. And like, I know going into those posts, the vast majority of my followers are nerdy bisexuals with septum piercings and some witchy attitudes. It's very easy to tell those people that I don't support ICE, that I don't support Trump, because they're going to say that's the correct thing to do.
Right. Take my money.
Yeah. Exactly.
But even I'm going to use a local Milwaukee example. There's a spice company that you may have heard of called Penzies. They're great. The owner got very, very straightforward about his opinions. And I'm bringing this up because obviously Milwaukee and Wisconsin is very purple, right? So it's one thing to be very outspoken when you know your audience, and in a way you've built yourself a safe space, right? Which is amazing because we should all have safe spaces. But it's very different for a factory-based business, right, with hundreds of people's paychecks, to then come out and say, I don't support ICE, I don't support Trump, in a place that is mixed in their political leanings. And so, yes, they had some backlash, but then what's really interesting is after they very blatantly made it clear what the owner's opinions were, they had a backlash, sure. They saw a dip in sales, but after that, they saw an exponential growth also. And I think this is probably true on the flip side. I don't personally have any case study examples to give anyone for my own personal leanings because I don't pay attention to the flip side per se. But I would imagine it's true because I hope, in a strange way, I hope it's true because I think it is important that we think about spending our money where there will be some kind of impact. Like money controls the world. If you
vote
want
with your dollar, absolutely.
Precisely. So like if you want to bring some kind of change, then think about where you're spending money. And so any of us being outward with our own beliefs, then for me, makes sense, makes good business sense is what I'm getting at in a very rambly sort of way.
That's true from the customer's perspective. And also from like, if you are an artist, one of the things to think about is where your work ends up, right? I don't want my mug to be in the house of an ICE agent. I don't want to make them happy. I'm mad at them. They're doing bad things. The stuff that I make is all about feeling seen for your interests. It's about having that quiet moment with your book and a mug that you feel represents you, right? And I don't want them to feel like I'm making stuff that represents them. I don't want my work in their house. And I'm comfortable enough that I get to choose. So that's nice too.
Right. And that was that's the side of it that like I was trying to think from the perspective of somebody who's like, okay, well, I'm the only provider for myself, for my household. I need to make sure that we stay financially secure. How do I, how can I do this and stay, quote unquote, I guess, safe if you want?
Well, I'll say this. I've made record sales the past 2 months because of that video. So, I'm not saying this is what I did, but if it was all a big capitalistic ploy to make money, then it would have worked. And that's not what I did. Like I said, I just got mad and started yelling at my phone, but it can also be a great way to reach, oh God, this feels so nasty to say, but like a great way to reach a new customer base, like it's, again, not why I did it. However, if you need the capitalistic argument for doing it and for being yourself on the internet, there you go.
Well, and I think that's exactly what I was trying to get at in a much shorter way in terms of, for us with limited resources and time, the goal of niching down and getting clear about who your target audience is. Like the more we specifically speak to that group, the stronger our efforts are, the stronger the marketing effort is, as opposed to trying to keep everything broad. Because if you think about like I'm trying to think of the right metaphor, but like I don't get a craving for vanilla ice cream, right? Like vanilla ice cream is perfectly delicious, but I don't, if I'm like, ooh, I want some ice cream, that's not the one that comes top to the front of my palate, right?
Sure.
Like I can get really specific about, since we talked about Whitey's ice cream, peanut butter revel.
That's my favorite, chocolate peanut butter revel. That's the best one.
See, and look it.
And that gets somebody interested, yes.
But also just even your reaction. Like, I said vanilla ice cream, and it was like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then I said chocolate peanut butter revel, and it was like, yeah.
Well, it is the best flavor at Whitey's.
It is.
But also, that's
delicious.
like, the reason that I have had success in my pottery business is because nerds are passionate people, and they will drop money when you get that feeling going. I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con this next weekend, and I'm so excited. We go every year because we have friends out there. The amount of money that I spend in Artist Alley is insane. Like, it is a wild amount of money to spend on art, but when nerds get excited, we get excited.
And I would say that is true for any niche of people. Like,
yes.
The same is true for pet parents. The same is true for, the same is true for potters. Look at us all. Like, how many people have their mug walls? You could pick. The same would be true for somebody who wants to make work that is geographically specific, right?
Yes.
Like, who hasn't almost purchased something that is the only example I can think of makes me want to vomit a little bit, and that's not a diss to anyone who's made this purchase, because I've also almost made this purchase of, like, a piece of jewelry in the shape of the state you live with a heart on the city.
Absolutely.
Or a mug of the same thing. It's kitschy, but it connects to you in a really, really specific way, right?
Yes, because you're seeing, like, one of the things that can be so powerful about art is seeing yourself reflected back at you, right?
That made kitschy, ugly, like, kitschy objects to purchase, like, impulse purchases sound way more important, so I appreciate you digging me, you pulling me out of that.
Hey, listen, I've been a nerd since day one, so kitsch is not uncommon in my world. You love what you love, and
I love it. I love it so much. See, I was on the other side of nerddom with band, so, like, I wasn't in the Dungeons and Dragons gaming world.
Yes.
I was in the like band and theater and that side of nerddom. So,
well, there's some it's not a circle, that Venn diagram, but it definitely overlaps.
Oh, for sure.
Theater kids and D&D nerds. Woo.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the production value alone. Like,
yeah.
Before I lose track of myself here, and I forgot to mention this to you before we hit record, I do let our community members know who I'm going to interview so they get a chance to post questions for you. So I do have a couple questions for you.
Ooh.
And since we've been talking about, bringing together this very niche audience and having demand for your work, Ruth's question was wondering how you manage commissions, waitlists, pre-orders. And this question, she said, is both for practicality, but also mentally.
Yes. That is a great question. Not well, I'll start there. But a quick rundown is basically I have a spreadsheet. So I work down the spreadsheet, but I do not take money up front. That part is for my own mental health. I don't like to feel like I owe anybody anything. So I'll take money up front if the commission is, like, wildly specific, like you want names or dates or something. I'll take just, like, a little bit of money down so that I'm not totally, if they ditch, I'm not totally without any gain. But most of the time, people are asking for designs that I've done in the past. And so I don't take any money down. And if they ghost, which does not happen very often, but if it does happen, then I can easily sell it to somebody else. I also make 2 of everything of the request, and the other half is the stuff that goes in my shop drop. So as I work down the list, somebody wants an Ent mug, I make 2 of the Ent mugs, and the other mug, if it turns out, goes up to the main shop. As far as mentally, it has taken me a minute to come to terms with the fact that I cannot go any faster, and that I will simply get to people when I get to people. I have had a few people get frustrated when they realize how long the wait time is, but I think the really, really important part about that is to be very upfront when people initially reach out to you. My waitlist is closed now because it's out of hand, but for a long time when people reached out to me, the first thing I said is, you will not be getting a mug for years. That's something that you need to know right now, because if that doesn't work for you, then that's that.
That's amazing, by the way. And, like, I agree completely, but that's just insane to think about.
Yeah,
Also.
it's wild, right? It's insane for me to think about, and so I try not to think about it too much. The other thing that I do on my wait list is I keep it very zoomed in on my computer for my mental health. Like, it's always, I can only see about 10 or 20 people, and I try not to scroll down to look at the big number. So I just try to focus on those ones. And also, a lot of people like to sign up for wait lists and then never respond again. That's also something that brings me some comfort, is that, like, it looks like I think I'm at like 1264, I think, or something like that now. It looks like 1,264 people, but it's not actually that many people because a lot of people don't respond to that initial outreach.
That was exactly my next question, was thinking like the gap between the time of initial sign up to like,
Yeah.
okay, I can actually make you a mug now. Like, are they hearing from you anytime in between? Because like, I'm guessing I wouldn't remember a year from now necessarily.
Right. So I can tell you actually exactly. So for my January, February firing, I got to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got to 12 people on my waitlist that actually responded, and 1, 2, 3, and 10 people who didn't respond. And I'm sure that some of that is just that they don't check their email, or that it went to a different folder, or that they just simply missed the email altogether and they'll be sad later. But that can't be my problem. Like, at this point, like, you know that I'm reaching out to you via email. If you respond to the email, I can make you a mug. If you don't respond to I'm not going to trip over myself to make it that much easier for you, which leads to the people who are actually excited getting their mugs sooner, which is a good thing.
Do you, when you send out that email, do you give them a certain amount of like, hey, I need to hear back from you by, in 48 hours or whatever?
I don't tell them like a specific time, but what I do is basically everybody that I've sent an email to, they could email me tomorrow and I'll probably make them a mug, even if I emailed them 6 months ago. But what I do is I send out an email. Most mornings I'll send out an email to a person, because most of the times people are looking for one kind of mug. I have a whole bunch of those mugs already thrown, trimmed, handled. They just need to be decorated. So I'll send out an email in the morning. If I don't hear from them by the following day, then I send out an email to the next person and the next person.
So you're individually emailing basically 1,000 people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
We're going to talk about systems after this
Okay.
call.
Fair enough.
like,
my mother will
oh
be
my God.
thrilled to hear somebody else is going to lecture me about that. She was a systems engineer, I think. Was she? No, I don't know what she did. She worked in she did systems.
Only because I just want to like take weight off of people's shoulders. I'm like, this doesn't have to be this hard.
I know. I know that there are better ways, but I'm also one of those people who, like, I don't want to take the time to learn a different way. Just seems like a lot.
I mean, that is generally the pain point, is like, what I'm doing right now hurts and is a pain in the butt, but it doesn't feel as painful as having to figure out the bigger solution, which will take X amount of time and da-da-da-da-da, so let me just do it this way.
And as was discussed earlier, I'm so bad at computers that I just get frustrated and give up usually when I'm on them. But I do know how to send an email. That's something I can accomplish. So,
well, actually, since we were talking about manually doing this, now I'm curious. I mean, people are signing up for the waitlist online, obviously. So it's like a form, like there's some kind of
you're
form
gonna
or
get
something.
mad at me. You're gonna get so mad at me. So the waitlist is closed now, so people are not signing up anymore. But okay, so what I was doing was they would send me a DM and I would enter it all into a spreadsheet.
Stop it.
I know.
People can't see me, but my hands are over my face.
Listen, here's the thing, and I know about Google Forms is the problem. Like, I know about it, but then what kept happening was, like, you have a video get big and a bunch of people sign up for the wait list, and it's like, oh, I should really set up a Google form. But then people stop signing up, and it's like, well, where's my motivation to set up the Google form? And then it just keeps happening, and then eventually you just close your wait list. That's what happened to me.
I'm not laughing at you.
No, you can laugh at me. That's okay. You can laugh at me. I don't mind.
It completely makes sense to me. Emotionally, logically, I understand. What pains me more is thinking about the effort it takes to like have to manually copy thousands of DM messages, like of emails over into another place. Like that's where I'm like, that's where part of my systems love comes into being like, well, I'm going to spend a day on the front end because later I don't have to do anything and it'll just automatically happen. That's just my brain.
That sounds like a lovely brain to have. I don't have that brain. I have the kind of brain that refuses to prepare for these kinds of things.
I'm also really glad that you mentioned Google Form because I do think sometimes, see, now the downside of my type of brain is that I will overcomplicate it. And then I'll have to set up an email system that, automatically sends somebody a confirmation and then this and then that. And then it's a 3-week project instead of a 1-day project. So that's not necessary whatsoever. And I'm forever reminding people of that, of like, just because my brain goes to 10x this whole system doesn't mean you can't just do like the most basic, simple possible way of setting something up so that you just don't have to manually input anything. So yeah,
That's fair.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Also, I will just say the caveat for anyone who's listening in, because I know that Ruth is not in the US. So for especially in Europe, in terms of like compliance rules and whatnot, you probably do have to set up a form so that someone has officially given you their permission. That being said,
What?
I also think, oh yeah, like as far as what is it, GRPD or I'm not going to get the acronym correct. The privacy stuff.
Oh.
In fact, like think about
Interesting.
when you sign up for an email list of, I don't know, like a clothing store or like
Sure.
whatever. You have to give them permission to email you, right? Like you've
Yeah.
put your email address in. Now, I think there's a lot of times when we as small businesses get we're really good at following the rules, right? Like we want to make sure we're doing everything correct. And we miss the point of like, if you have said, if you want to receive this from me, DM me your email, a person has given you permission. You've asked, they've answered, and there it is. So you can manually input that into a system. I don't have the double confirmation when somebody signs up to my email list that then they have to click, yes, I want to be on this in their inbox, because I think that's silly. Because it's like, well, if you've just put your email in, you obviously want to get the email.
Right.
Like that's the point being, like some of the rules around this stuff is for when someone is truly genuinely spamming somebody, right? Like when you get an email from something that you have no recollection of ever signing up for, but it's because this just happened to me recently. I'm sure I was on someone's email list for their actual business that I knew, but they have since changed that business and they're doing something else. And so now I'm getting all of these emails from something that's something I never signed up for. And it's like, well, you can't do that necessarily, right?
Well, I guess that's a good argument for my wonderful system then, because I'm just a person sending an email to another person, right? I'm not sending out hundreds of emails. I'm just sending out one email a day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you're not doing it through like like I have a newsletter, right? Where I'll send free photo tips and things like that. And that goes out to all of the people on the list at the same time. I can't do that individually through Gmail.
Obviously, yes. Yeah.
So it's that type of thing. But the best part is for you, even like without that system, you still have all these people's contacts. If Instagram or TikTok or whatever dies tomorrow, you could still reach out to them and keep your pottery business going.
Yeah, I was talking about this with my mom when people were talking about TikTok going away. And this was before my Instagram blew up. What was this? Was that 2 years ago? I don't know. It was a while ago when TikTok actually did like go away. And I was like, how am I going to continue this business? And my mom was like, well, I mean, you do have a bunch of like not only outstanding orders, people who want your stuff, but you also have in your big cartel, you have all these people who gave you their address to receive their mugs. You could send out just a bunch of postcards and be like, hey, if you want any more mugs or something like that. I don't know if that's legal now. I'm scared. But that was the
well, they have already purchased from you. So they did, it's not like you're buying a list. That's the thing. Like a lot of these rules that I think we get scared about are like the intent of what they're trying to protect are the malicious actors, right? There's conferences I've been to who vendors at that conference, they're basically paying to be a sponsor at the conference to get the list of all of the email addresses of the people that went to the conference.
Whoa.
Right?
That's
and then you're
wild.
getting messages from them. And I'm like, no. We didn't sign up for this. So like that type of situation. Whereas you're talking about people who have already actively engaged with you.
Yeah.
Then it's, that's different. I had an email list from the photography company that then when Francesco and I started Cara Terra, there was an email newsletter that I sent out that was like, oh, and by the way, we do this also now. Click here if you want to be added to our email list. Now, I didn't
Yeah.
take everybody from my photography business and put them on our list, but I absolutely told them that we existed through that, right? So,
Of course.
a little bit
That
different.
makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So, anyway, I digress. Didn't totally mean to go down the email list rabbit hole, but when I saw Ruth's question about pre-orders, I was like, well, this is probably going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. The moral of the story that you're telling me that I want to get back to is like, you can keep things low tech and still have a sustainable business.
Yeah, I like that. Sounds a lot better than just not knowing how to use a computer. Yeah, and I also think that a lot of that has to do with one of my favorite things about making stuff for people is like meeting a person, learning what they're into, and then making something for them. And I don't get to do that. I don't get to learn about these people as well when they're just like filling out a Google form and then I'm reading the Google form. It doesn't feel like a conversation, I guess.
Oh, that's super interesting. So actually, this leads to my own question because you've got your wait list. That is because people have seen something you're already making and then you're making more of those things, or because you've also then talked about commissions.
Yes, and a lot of the time for the waitlisters specifically, when I reach out to somebody, they'll be like, yes, I loved this design, but can we put this on the bottom instead? Or I would like a set of these mugs for, like the one that I just shipped out today was for a set of 4 siblings. 2 of them are left-handed, and they wanted specific quotes on the bottom to represent each sibling, right?
So it's kind of, and this is actually something I remember when I very first got into clay and was looking on Instagram and seeing so many people's bios that were like, no commissions, no commissions, no commissions. And I was like, well, let's define commission, because sure, if somebody says, hey, can you make me a chip and dip thing that I've never made and have no plans to make and am not interested in, that's one thing. But what you're talking about is like, you're known for a vibe, you're known for a style, you're continuously making certain forms. So that stays the same. And what people are getting to choose is, a very small percentage of what that final piece is effectively.
Yeah. And at the same time, I have one of my clients who has purchased several mugs from me. They're one of my favorite clients because every time, okay, I'm going to get down a little bit of a nerdy rabbit hole, but
do it.
There's a show called Critical Role. They're a D&D live stream. Every time there's a new campaign, they request a piece based on one of the characters in the Critical Role campaign. They're on my list, but I have no idea what character they're going to choose for this campaign. And I don't think they do either because it just started. So when I get to them, they'll say like, okay, I think I want this character or yeah.
Gotcha. What I'm hearing from like a business jargony sense is effectively you've put boundaries around how you're taking commissions and how the wait list works in terms of like, this is what I make. If you want that, let me know. And then also like, and then you can decide exactly how that's finished when the time comes that I'm ready for your specific piece or your set.
And if they have like a really fun, cool new idea, I'm always down to try something new, even if it sucks really bad. Like I have this tea set that I just finished not too long ago for my tattoo artist, and it's not great, but I'm gonna like, he likes it, but he wanted me to try this really cool method of making a gong fu, and I was like, I'll try it. I'm not gonna be very good at it, but I'll give it a go. It's fine. It does what it needs to do.
That's hilarious. That makes me think of the very well-meaning past clients of mine who, when I got into pottery, bought pottery from me. And still to this day, I'm like, I should really send them a new set of bowls.
Oh my God. That's like a curse. That original set of D&D mugs that I gave to my friends, they use them all the time. And I go to their houses all the time for D&D, and it's awful. And I have to see those mugs, and I have to use them and hold them, and they're so bad.
Right?
Yeah.
All of us, I think, start selling our work too soon. I don't know anybody. And if you don't, then you wait so long that people are like, oh my God, like it's time already.
Right.
It's one or the other. I don't know anybody in the middle.
I mean, that's a really hard plane to land, right? Because like feeling ready and being ready are two totally different things.
100%. 100%. But I do think the stories we all have of that really early work that at the time we were totally proud of, to be fair, like, the goalposts move on this all the time. I'm talking the really early work because when I talk about this set of cereal bowls, I'm talking about a groggy clay that I did not burnish, that had too thin of a glaze on it
Oh,
to where the
no.
bottom of the inside of the bowl, when you took a spoon on, if you're
No,
eating
no,
your
no.
cereal in a spoon, the
Yeah.
sound of a spoon on grog. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like, oh, it's a little bit heavier than the work I make now. No,
The
no, 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 no.
handles are so pointless on my early mugs. They're so,
Yes.
like, I'm not a big fan of mugs with handles, but, like, most people like them, so I put them on there, right? When I have to hold a mug that I made early on with those stupid, chunky, uncomfortable handles, I'm like, can we please smash this? Please.
Or the pieces where I'm like, oh, this is not actually safe. Like the
Oh,
rim is
yeah.
so thin that this is actually borderline sharp.
Sure.
We should get rid of this.
Yeah.
So, like, to be fair, I am case study number 1 here on, like, selling way too soon. So I feel like we should compile all these stories and then share them in some way where people who are thinking about starting to sell their work can listen and be like, oh, God, I don't want to have to go to my friend's house and pick up this terrible mug every time I'm there to play a game and be reminded. So I'll wait a year and then I'll give them mugs.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Also, get into mosaics early so that you can smash your mugs and not feel bad about it.
Ooh, yes. Pro tip. Like that. I've always said that I think all ceramics community studios should have like a little room somewhere where like non-potters, like everyday people could come in, pay $5 and then smash a pot.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
It's a great rage release.
It's so
You know what I mean?
fun.
Like there are rage rooms now that people go and pay to like take a sledgehammer to things.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, what a great fundraiser for a ceramic studio.
absolutely. That's a great idea.
I have thrown pots at a brick before, and it is very cathartic.
It is so much fun.
Fantastic.
In my backyard, I built this wood-fired oven, and the mosaic that I did over it is all just mine and my mom's pottery that we didn't like anymore, and we just smashed it all. It was so fun. It's a great idea. Yeah.
I love it. Well, so let me actually back up, and then I will try and land this plane because I don't want to take up too much of your night. But I jumped past some of the basics when we first started. You were saying pottery got bigger than baking back in 2020. So when did you really start selling the work that we know now? Like when did you start selling pottery even?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so I started selling when people started asking me to buy things for pottery.
As we all do.
Yeah, because like I said, I already had the fiber arts in the background, so the Etsy store was already set up. I already had the sole proprietorship kind of thing. So when did I don't know. God, what a blur of 6 years. Oh, you know what? I remember what it was. I have a friend who throws these really elaborate birthday parties, and they're absolutely incredible. She puts so much work into them, and she wanted to do a Lord of the Rings themed one. And I was like, oh my God, let me tell you about Mirek Smisek. The pottery in Lord of the Rings is so cool. It's so fun. Mirek Smisek is a legend in my world. He made 700 pots for the Lord of the Rings movies. Some of them are different sizes, so a guy could hand something to a hobbit and it would be the same size. There's also this pitcher in those movies that I could talk about for literally hours. Anyway, so I started rambling about that and she was like, oh, you should make some stuff for the party. So I did, and I made character-specific stuff for that. And the Lord of the Rings community is wild. That's where a lot of my big sellers came from, was making stuff for that party. I want to say that was 2022 is my guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. Just because thinking when people hear about crazy big wait lists and the fact that this is the main thing that you do along with all of the home upkeep and everything, having a reasonable... It's funny because you can hear a story in 4 years is like, oh, that's fairly short in the grand scheme of our lives.
Yeah.
But also, on the other hand, when you're in it, 4 years can feel like an eternity.
Yeah. It feels so long ago.
Well, and also like when you haven't found that place, when the Venn diagram hasn't yet become a circle of like what you like to make and the people who like it and are interested in it and who are interested in it enough to buy it and have all those things come together. Number one, it takes time to find that happy little blend of things.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, so then the slog of like when you're actively trying to find it
Yeah.
for years can feel like, you know, a constant uphill.
Yes.
I was going to try and work in a funny, nerdy story, like, you know, like a journey to Mordor or something, but I don't know. I don't know enough. And it was
Journey
going
to
to be
Mordor
wrong.
works. Yeah, that's a long time.
Great.
But just
That's
like
all I
the
got.
journey to Mordor, right? It's like it's step by step. You mentioned earlier how the first time you saw me was just me like ranting about politics on the internet. But like I have been trying to have a craft business since I was 16 years old. Like I have been working on this. You know, I have a degree in folk art. You know what I mean? Like I've been working on this for a very, very long time. And even though there's only been financial success recently, the only reason that I was able to make any of that happen is because I've been working on this for so long.
Yeah, I really think, I don't know if I heard somebody say this or if it's in my head, so I'm going to not take credit, but I don't know who to credit. But like the key to success was basically not quit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not quitting can mean figuring out a way to continue in the sense of like having another job and continuing to make what you are passionate about making. That's not quitting.
Yes.
Not quitting can also be, if you are full-time, figuring out a way to, you know, diversify and keep yourself afloat or, you know, not quitting the actual job itself. It covers all things, but it's just like, just keep going.
Yeah, you just keep going. Like I said, I opened the shop when I'm 16 or whatever, but like I had a full career as a baker also. And I think that like all of those little things that you do in order to survive, they all teach you things, right? Because I started posting on social media as a baker and I had a small following, but a following of bakers. And we talked about baking and I was teaching classes online and I was doing all of those things. And it was easier for me to pivot when the ceramics did take off. It's a lot easier for me to pivot because I had already taken so many pictures of bread that I knew how to take a picture of a mug and I could just, you know.
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's one of those, like, how frequently we either have told ourselves or we hear someone say, like, oh, you know, I wish I would have discovered this decades ago, or, you know, I've lost so much time because I only just, and it's like, well, no, because your life experience will then inform whatever it is you're making now,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's no way, it would be disingenuous of me to come out and try and teach potters how to run businesses if that, like, without the experience I already had.
Yeah.
Right? Even though it wasn't in pottery, it was like it was still running a self-employed creative business. And it's like that, I needed to have that, even though I've now shifted in order to actually do what I'm doing now. Like I wouldn't have been able to do what I'm doing now. So
Yeah. I also spent all those years as a baker. And so I have really strong forearms. So throwing pots became really easy. And then like glaze chemistry and baker's percentages are the same thing. It's the same equations. It made it so much easier when I did get into pottery.
That's amazing. That's so fantastic. Also, I just want to warn anybody, because this is what I've done recently before we got on the call, that if you scroll back too far in your Instagram, you will get hungry. So just...
Oh, dang, you really got in there, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I only use Instagram on desktop now, so it's really easy to go really far down.
There you go.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. But anywho, I should land the plane because I have taken up enough of your time. So I'm going to ask you just a big old open-ended question. Is there something we haven't talked about that you wish people knew or you never get asked?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the big thing for me when it comes to, I'm going to put this in the context of your podcast, right? So like whenever I'm talking to people who either want to start a craft business or they're trying to start a craft business or like they're interested in how it's done in any way, I always want them to, like we were talking about earlier, ask themselves what it is that they want out of it. Like, do they want this art form to support them financially? Or do they just want to make a bunch of nerdy mugs? Because that question has really helped me recently when it comes to all of these orders and people yelling at me online, and even like when you talk about, you get death threats, like these things, they happen.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, people are wild. Absolutely wild. But like, I always turn back to, all I want is to have a garden and to make pots for people who like them, right? So like, if that's the goal, then I don't have to have a certain number of followers. I don't have to have a certain number of likes, or I don't have to make a certain amount of money, because the goal is I have a nice little house that I love and I get to make mugs for nerds. That's all I want to do. If I get to do that, if I have enough to do that, then that's all. That's it. That's good. And then you can stop.
I love that. And we will stop.
Perfect.
For people who don't know about your nerdy mugs and have never seen them, I know you mentioned it earlier, but where on the internet do you want to send them?
I am at Maker Bakery almost everywhere. Instagram and TikTok are the ones that I actually post to. The threads and the Facebooks are definitely, the ones that just everything kind of gets sent their way. So Instagram and TikTok is the best way to get a hold of me and to see my stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. This was so fun.
We have to meet up in Iowa City the next time I'm in the Quad Cities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great place.
I also just want to put on the record that Whitey's ice cream is someone's last name and not as racist as it sounds.
That is important. That is important.
Anytime I talk about the Quad Cities and these inevitable names come up, I'm always like, let me explain.
Yeah.
So just for the record, in case anybody made it this far.
That's important. That's important. Absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Taylor. I super appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I hope this conversation with Taylor has given you a little permission to get a lot more specific about who you're making for, what you actually want to make, what your making life looks like or what you want it to look like, and what enough means to you personally. Because I think a lot of us are out here trying to grow in every direction at once. And sometimes the most clarifying thing you can do is just stop and ask, what do I actually want from this? And the answer doesn't have to be impressive to the internet. Taylor's answer is a garden, a studio, and mugs for people who love them. Simple as that. And from that clarity, she has built something genuinely sustainable. A waitlist full of people who were drawn to her because she was exactly, unapologetically, herself. So if you've been holding back on saying what you actually think or making the work you actually want to make because you're worried about how it might turn out or who might tune out, it's okay to let those people go. The right people tend to show up when you stop trying to be everything to everyone. And those right people who do show up, well, it makes it all worthwhile. Trust me. As always, if you're trying to figure out what version of this making life is actually right for you, not the formula, not the blueprint, but your specific version, that's exactly the conversation happening inside the community right now. And that goes for the big philosophical questions of what your specific making life looks like, but also the practical ones, like how to build an email list that doesn't require you to personally write one email at a time like Taylor. Love her for that. And if that works for you too, then go for it. But we've also got a masterclass to help if that sounds like way more manual work than you're interested in doing. Not to mention masterclasses on pricing your work, talking about your work, preparing for selling in person and online, SEO, a lot more. Because there's new classes being added every quarter, so the list just continues to grow. Pragmatic, educational resources from other creatives who have figured it out the hard way and want to make it easier for you. Plus, makers at every stage from just getting started to years into running a full-time studio, all working through what it looks like to build something that fits the life they actually want. If that sounds like your kind of people, then come find us over at makersplaybook.com/community. One more time, since your hands are probably covered in mud, that's makersplaybook.com/community. community. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality. Because together, we've got this. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Christy Kotzfan. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.